I used to think my sister stealing my boyfriend would be the worst thing she could ever do to me. I was wrong. The worst thing was realizing how close I came to paying for someone else's lies with my own body, my own future, my own peace, and how, in the middle of that chaos, I accidentally found a love that felt so quiet and real it made everything else finally sound like what it always was, noise. It started at dinner, the kind of dinner my parents liked because it looked like a family, like something stable and warm you could photograph and show the world, even when the truth underneath it was restless and sharp. My sister, Madison, talked about herself for the third time in the first hour. Madison didn't speak the way normal people spoke, she performed. Every meal turned into a small stage, every pause an invitation for applause. She sat with her shoulders back and her chin tilted as if she was being filmed from her best angle, and every time she gestured, she made sure the light hit her nails, her ringless hand held out like proof that she was still available for something better. Across from her, her boyfriend Daniel sat with his arms loosely folded, listening in that polite, faraway way you listen when you've heard the same story so many times that you can predict the jokes before they land. Next to me, my boyfriend Ryan scrolled his phone under the table, thumb moving like that screen was the only place that asked anything of him. I watched the faint glow on his face, and I realized, with that tiny sick sinking feeling, that he looked more alive reading strangers' posts than he had looked listening to me for weeks. Madison cleared her throat like she was about to give a keynote. "So," she said, smiling with that sweet soft expression that never reached her eyes, "I've been thinking." Daniel muttered without looking up, "Here we go." Madison's smile tightened. She didn't like being interrupted, even by someone who had been living in her orbit for a year. "I have this idea," she continued, voice bright and deliberate. "It's kind of crazy, but hear me out." Ryan finally glanced up from his phone. And I felt something cold move through me because he looked at her the way he used to look at me, attentive, curious, almost hungry for whatever came next. Madison clasped her hands together like she was offering us a gift. "I think you and I should swap boyfriends." For a second I genuinely thought I misheard her. I blinked, waited for the punchline, waited for the part where she laughed and said she was kidding, but Madison only leaned forward as if she'd just said something brilliant. I laughed, one sharp sound, surprised out of me. Then I looked at Ryan, expecting him to laugh too, or at least give me that look couples give each other when someone says something ridiculous in public. He didn't. He stared at Madison, phone forgotten in his hand, and in that moment it felt like I could actually watch him choose. Like watching a door close in slow motion. "I'm serious," Madison said. "Think about it. Daniel is nice, but he's boring." She waved a hand at him like he was a piece of furniture she regretted buying. "No offense, babe. He never wants to do anything spontaneous. He just wants to stay home and watch movies and cook dinner. It's like dating a retirement home." Daniel snorted, quiet but sharp. "Better than dating a tornado that destroys everything and calls it excitement." Madison acted like she didn't hear him. She never heard what didn't serve her. "And Ryan," she said, turning her attention fully to him now, chin resting on her hand, "is adventurous. He's fun. He's always down to try new things. I just feel like we'd be way more compatible. It makes sense if you think about it." I stared at her. "You're insane." "I'm practical," Madison corrected, like that was the problem with me, that I wasn't practical enough to hand my relationship over like a jacket at a coat check. Why should we both be stuck in relationships that don't fit when we could just trade? It's not like any of us are married, Claire. I opened my mouth to answer, but Ryan beat me to it, and the words that came out of him didn't sound like a joke. "I mean," he said, shrugging, "it's not the worst idea." My whole body went cold. I turned to him so fast my neck cracked. "Excuse me?" He didn't even look ashamed. He looked relieved. Like someone finally offered him an exit that didn't require him to be the bad guy. "What?" he said. "I'm just saying. We've been together 3 years, Claire. Things get stale." Stale. The word landed in my chest like a slap, because yes, things had been hard and quiet lately, but I thought we were in that normal rough patch where you talk, you try, you remember why you chose each other. I didn't think he was sitting at the table waiting for my sister to hand him permission to leave. Madison clapped her hands once, delighted. See? Ryan gets it. Come on, Claire. 1 month. That's all I'm asking. If it doesn't work out, we switch back and forget it ever happened. No harm done. No, I said. Why not? Because it's crazy. Because you're my sister. Because this isn't a Netflix show. Pick a reason. Madison rolled her eyes so dramatically I thought they might stick. God, you're so dramatic. It's not that serious. Daniel doesn't care. She turned to him, already expecting him to play his part. Right, babe? Tell her you don't care. Daniel looked at me, and for the first time, I actually saw something behind his calm expression, not boredom, not emptiness, but a tired awareness, like he'd been living inside Madison's storm for a year and was quietly measuring how much damage she'd done. Whatever ends dinner faster, he said. Madison smiled like he'd proposed. Then she reached into her purse, and when she pulled out a folded piece of paper, I felt my stomach drop. I even drafted a little contract, she said brightly. 1 month minimum. No backing out early. No running to mom and dad. We all agree to give it a real shot. She slid the paper toward me. It was absurd. It was humiliating. It was the kind of thing you'd think no one would ever actually sign, until I saw Ryan's hand already reaching for the pen. Ryan, I said, voice rising before I could stop it. Don't you dare. He didn't even look up. He signed his name like he was signing a delivery receipt. Like 3 years meant nothing. Relax, he said, handing the paper to Madison. It's just a month. Might be good for us. Shake things up. Might be good for us. Like I was the problem. Like I should be grateful he was willing to try. Madison signed next, all flourish and confidence. Daniel signed with a quick scribble, almost like he wanted it done before he changed his mind. And then they all looked at me. Madison softened her voice, honey wrapped around poison. Come on, Claire. Live a little. Unless you're scared Daniel won't like you. She knew exactly where to press. She always had. Madison didn't just want to win, she wanted you to feel small while she did it. The smart thing would have been to stand up, to walk away, to leave them with their ridiculous paper and their ridiculous ego and their ridiculous betrayal. But Ryan had already signed. And something stubborn and cold rose in me, not love for him, not hope, but a refusal to beg. I took the pen. I signed my name in hard strokes. And I tossed it back on the table like I was closing a door. Madison smiled, polished and triumphant. Trust me, she said. This is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. She had no idea she was right. 3 days later, Daniel texted me. Coffee? Figured we should actually talk since we're stuck together. It was simple. No games. No fake charm. No Madison-style performance. I stared at the message for a long moment, half expecting it to be some kind of trap, but then I realized something uncomfortable. I didn't actually know Daniel. Not really. Madison talked so loudly that everyone else around her became background noise. I typed back, sure. We met at a cafe between our apartments, neutral ground, like two strangers meeting to discuss the consequences of a decision they didn't make for themselves. I arrived early, ordered a latte I barely tasted, and picked a corner table where I could see the door. When Daniel walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. He wasn't the quiet shadow beside my sister. He wasn't hunched or withdrawn. He moved like someone whose shoulders had finally dropped, like stepping away from Madison had physically changed the air around him. He sat across from me, exhaled, and then he laughed softly. This is weird, he said. It's extremely weird, I replied, and my voice surprised me, not brittle, not angry, just honest. He nodded. I keep waiting for Madison to jump out from behind a plant and tell me this was some elaborate prank. I snorted. She'd have to admit she was wrong about something, so, we're safe. That made him smile, and it was the first time I'd ever seen him smile like that, real, unguarded, like it belonged to him. We sat there for a moment, the weirdness loosening, replaced by something simpler, two people who had both been made to feel like they were too much and not enough at the same time. Daniel leaned back slightly. How are you holding up, with the Ryan thing? I stared down at my cup, watched the way the foam trembled when my hands did. The truth? I said. Yeah. I keep replaying it, I admitted. The way he signed without looking at me. Like I was already gone in his mind. Daniel nodded slowly, jaw tightening. That was rough to watch. Was it obvious? I asked, and the question felt like a bruise, because part of me already knew the answer. He hesitated, then chose careful honesty. It wasn't horrible in a dramatic way. It was just like he wasn't fully there. Every time I saw you two together, he was either on his phone or looking somewhere else. I swallowed. And Madison, I said quietly, because now that the door was open, I couldn't pretend I didn't see it. She does that too. Not with a phone, but she's always waiting for her turn to talk. Daniel let out a breath that sounded like relief. Exactly. For a while I thought I was boring. She told me I was boring so many times I started believing it. But then I realized she calls everything boring that isn't about her. Something in me cracked, not because it was new, but because hearing it from someone else made it real. We talked for an hour, then two, and somewhere in the middle of it, the story shifted, not into romance yet, not into anything shiny, but into something deeper, recognition. Daniel wasn't boring. He was steady. And for the first time in a long time, I felt my nervous system stop bracing for impact. When we finally stood to leave, he looked at me like he was considering whether to tell me something, and then he said, quietly, "Can I be honest?" When Madison suggested the swap, I wasn't shocked. Why? Because it was the first door she opened that let me breathe, he said, and his voice softened. I've tried to leave before. Every time I did, she cried, threatened, twisted it into a story where I was the monster. I started thinking maybe I really was. My chest tightened. That's not love, I whispered. I know, he said. But when you're in it, guilt becomes your daily weather. You forget what normal feels like. He hesitated, then added, I'm glad you texted back. I don't want this month to be another performance. I want it to be real. I nodded, and it felt like the first time in weeks my head and my heart agreed on something. Okay, I said. Real. And as I walked back to my car, I realized something that should have made me furious, but instead made me calm in a way that scared me. Ryan leaving wasn't the moment my life broke. It was the moment my life began to unclench. The next 2 weeks with Daniel didn't feel like revenge, or like a dramatic new chapter, or like the kind of thing my sister would post about with a filter and a caption full of fake wisdom. It felt quiet. It felt normal in a way I'd forgotten normal could feel. Daniel cooked dinner the first night I went to his place, not like a show, not like, look at me, aren't I amazing, but like feeding someone was simply what you did when you cared about them. He asked what I liked, remembered it without making it a big deal, and when he noticed me flinching every time my phone buzzed, he didn't demand an explanation. He just slid it face down and said, gently, you don't have to live on alert anymore. I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear that until my eyes burned. One night we stayed up late watching terrible horror movies and laughing at the acting, and at some point, I caught myself smiling so easily it scared me, because I didn't know when I'd last smiled without checking if someone approved. And then, in the middle of that softness, Daniel told me the thing that cracked the story wide open. We were sitting on his couch, legs tucked under us, when my phone lit up with a text from Madison, something dramatic, something about family, something about how I was hurting her. I sighed, thumb hovering. Daniel watched me for a beat and then said, before you answer, there's something you should know about me. I looked at him. Okay. He took a breath like he was stepping off a ledge. I quit my job 3 weeks ago, he said. I blinked. Are you okay? Like financially? He gave a small, nervous laugh. Yeah. I'm more than okay. He hesitated, eyes flicking away, then back. This is going to sound insane. Daniel. I won the lottery, he said quickly, like ripping off a bandage. Not like $100. Like, millions. I stared at him so hard my brain refused to accept it. Then I laughed once, breathless. You're kidding. I'm not. The room felt suddenly unreal, like the air had shifted around the words. And Madison doesn't know? I asked slowly. No, he said, and his voice went quiet. No one knows. I haven't told anyone. Why? Daniel's jaw tightened, not with anger but with sadness, like he was admitting something that hurt. Because Madison would never let me go if she knew, he said. She'd suddenly love everything about me. The quiet nights. The staying home. The cooking. All of it would become perfect the second there was money attached. I sat there, stunned, and then, because I knew my sister like you know your own scars, I whispered, she's going to lose her mind when she finds out. Daniel nodded, grim and tired. Yeah. It didn't take long. A week later, Daniel called his mom to tell her mortgage was paid. He was so happy in that moment, genuinely, brightly happy, that it made my throat tighten. I watched him on the couch, eyes shining, voice warm, and I thought, this is who he is when he's not being drained dry. And then the front door flew open. Madison had a key she'd forgotten to return, and she burst into the apartment like a storm in heels. What did you just say? She shrieked. Daniel's face went pale. Madison's eyes darted between him and me like she was calculating, like her brain was already rewriting the world around what she wanted. You paid off a mortgage, she said, voice rising. How? Where did you get that much money? Daniel stood slowly. Madison, you need to leave. I'm not going anywhere, she snapped. Not until you tell me what the hell is going on. When Daniel stayed silent, Madison turned on me with a feral kind of certainty. You knew, she accused. You knew and that's why you signed. That's why you agreed to this so fast. You stole him from me. I stared at her, stunned by the audacity. I didn't steal anyone, I said. You handed him over like a trade-in because you wanted Ryan. I didn't have all the information. She shouted, like that was a legal defense. If I'd known. Daniel's voice cut through her, low and steady. If you'd known, you would have pretended to love me. Madison froze. For one rare second, she had nothing prepared. You were together for a year, she hissed. You owed me honesty. Owed you? Daniel repeated, voice shaking slightly now, not from fear but from finally seeing her clearly. You called me boring. You mocked my life. You made me feel like being calm was a flaw. And now you're angry because you think you missed out on money. Madison's mouth opened, closed. Then she grabbed her purse like it was a weapon, slammed the door, and left so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. The next morning, my mom called. Her voice was already soft in that way it got when she assumed I was the problem. Claire, she said, Madison is devastated. We need you to come home. No excuses. An hour later I walked into my parents' living room and found Madison curled on the couch like a wounded animal, tissues scattered around her, eyes red and puffy in a way that looked practiced. My mom rubbed her back. My dad stood near the fireplace looking like he wanted to disappear. My mom looked at me. We need to talk. Let me guess, I said, voice flat. Madison told you her version and now I'm the villain. No one said that, my mom replied quickly, but the way she wouldn't meet my eyes said plenty. Madison sniffed dramatically. I just want things to go back to normal. Normal, I repeated, and something cold settled deeper in my chest. You planned a boyfriend swap like it was a board game. Madison's voice rose, desperate and sharp. I didn't know what I was giving up. He hid things. How could I decide fairly without all the facts? My dad cleared his throat, uncomfortable. Claire, maybe we can end this early. For the family's sake. I stared at them, at how easily they tried to make me responsible for Madison's feelings, like the family's peace was always my job and never hers. No, I said. My mom blinked. Claire. The contract, I continued, eyes on Madison now, says 1 month minimum. No early withdrawal. No running to parents. Madison's face tightened. You wrote those rules, I said softly. So I couldn't escape when it got uncomfortable. Now you don't get to escape either. Madison's eyes filled again, but this time I saw the truth underneath the tears, not heartbreak, but rage at losing control. Go be with Ryan, I said. Leave me and Daniel alone. And when I walked out with Daniel's hand on my back, steady and warm, I realized I wasn't just choosing him. I was choosing air. Madison didn't stop. She tried 100 small ways first, showing up, by coincidence, at restaurants, sending relatives into my messages with fake concern, calling my mom crying so my mom would call me, staging herself as the victim in every room until people believed her because believing Madison was always easier than challenging her. But Daniel saw through it. And in the middle of all that noise, there were nights when he looked at me like I was something precious and real, and he said things that made my whole nervous system soften, sentences that didn't demand I prove my worth, sentences that didn't come with conditions. One night, lying on the couch with a cooking show playing quietly in the background, he brushed his thumb over my knuckles and said, "You know what I like about you? My lethal wit and charm?" I offered, trying to hide how much I wanted the answer. He smiled. No performance. You just exist. And when I can breathe again. My throat tightened. No one had ever said that to me, not like that, not without turning it into a joke. Then they weren't paying attention, he said, turning to face me. You're smart. You're honest. You're kind in a way that doesn't beg for credit. That matters. I stared at him, and something inside me, some old belief that love had to be earned through shrinking, finally started to loosen. I kissed him then, slow and certain, like my body recognized safety before my mind caught up. 2 weeks later, Madison went quiet. No surprise appearances. No texts. No family pressure. The silence felt worse than her chaos because Madison didn't lose gracefully, she regrouped. A week into the quiet, she texted me 6 words. Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow. Every part of me screamed trap, but another part of me wanted closure so badly it felt like hunger. So I went. Madison sat in the corner of the cafe with tea in front of her, face calm, almost human. Thanks for coming, she said softly. What do you want? I asked. She took a careful sip, like she was choosing each move. I'm sorry, she said. For showing up, for the family texts, for everything. I watched her hard, looking for the hook. Then she smiled, small, strange. Enjoy him while you can, she said lightly, and the words made my stomach drop. What does that mean? I asked. Madison shrugged as if it was nothing. Just, enjoy. She stood, adjusted her purse strap, and walked out. I sat there long after she left, heart thudding, because her calm felt like the moment right before a storm hits land. At 2 a.m., my phone rang. Madison was crying so hard I barely understood her. Claire, she choked out, raw and gasping, nothing like her usual controlled tears. I messed up. Madison, I whispered, sitting up, heart racing. What happened? Are you hurt? I slept with him, she sobbed. I slept with Ryan. My stomach turned over. When? I demanded. A few days ago, she said, and then her voice cracked into something terrified. But that's not why I'm calling. He told me after. After he said, he has an STD. My whole body went cold. He has what? I don't know exactly, she cried. He wouldn't even say clearly. He just said I need to get tested, that he found out a few weeks ago, and he was embarrassed, and... My mind snapped back to a night I hadn't thought about in months, Ryan and me, 2 days before that dinner, me trying to fix something broken by reaching for him physically, thinking closeness could save what effort wouldn't. If he found out, a few weeks ago, he had it when we were still together. My hand started shaking so violently I had to grip the edge of my mattress. Madison, I said slowly, voice turning to ice. I slept with him 2 days before the swap. There was silence on the line, and then a small horrified sound like she was finally, for the first time, realizing that her choices didn't just hurt other people emotionally, they could hurt bodies too. Oh God, she whispered. No, I said. You didn't think. You never do. I hung up and called Daniel immediately. He answered on the second ring, voice sleepy. Claire. I'm coming over, I said, breath shaking. Don't move. 15 minutes later he was at my door, and the second I opened it, he pulled me into his arms without questions, without blame, just warmth and steadiness. We need to get tested, I whispered into his chest. He cupped my face gently, eyes serious. We will. And you're not doing this alone. At the clinic, Ryan showed up looking annoyed, like his inconvenience was the real tragedy. This is ridiculous, he muttered. You're all overreacting. Madison erupted at him, voice echoing through the waiting room. You told me after. After. Ryan rolled his eyes. I told you, didn't I? That's more than most men would do. Daniel's voice was quiet, but it landed like a blade. A medal for the minimum? Tests. Forms. Cold lighting. A nurse telling us results would take 48 to 72 hours. 48 hours felt like a lifetime when your fear has nowhere to go. Daniel stayed with me the entire time. He didn't try to distract me with shallow reassurance. He didn't say, it'll be fine, like it was a spell. He just stayed, and sometimes he'd squeeze my hand and say, breathe with me, and it was the most intimate thing I'd ever experienced, not romance, but presence. When the clinic called, my heart stopped. Miss Parker, Dr. Harris said, your results are negative. I broke. I cried so hard I couldn't speak, collapsing into Daniel's chest while relief tore through me like light. Daniel got his call next, negative, as expected, but he still closed his eyes for a second like hearing it out loud mattered, like certainty was a gift. Madison texted, results are in. Mom and Dad's house. Now. When we arrived, Ryan was already there, slouched on the couch, defensive and small. My parents stood near the kitchen, lost. Madison stood in the center of the room, shaking. I wanted everyone to hear this, she said, voice thin. She glared at Ryan. Tell them. Ryan's jaw tightened. I have an STD, he admitted, quiet. I found out a month ago. I should have told people sooner. My mom gasped, eyes flying to me. Claire. I'm negative, I said quickly. Relief flashed across her face so hard it looked like pain. Madison's laugh came out wrong, sour, cracking. I'm positive, she said, and her voice broke on the second word. Because he knew and he still slept with me anyway. My dad looked like he'd been punched. Ryan tried to defend himself, words tumbling. I didn't know how serious it was, the doctor said it was manageable, I was processing. A mistake is forgetting a birthday, Madison screamed. This is my life. And then she collapsed, not the dramatic victim collapse, but something uglier and realer, like the weight of consequence finally landed on her shoulders. I did this to myself, she sobbed. I had Daniel, sweet, loyal Daniel, and I threw him away for someone who couldn't even be honest about his own body. She looked up at Daniel like she wanted him to rescue her, to rewrite her story again. Daniel didn't move. He didn't gloat, either. He just looked tired, like someone who finally understood he'd been a role in her life, not a person. Madison's eyes slid to me, and guilt flickered, real, for half a second. I need to tell you something, she whispered. My stomach clenched. What? Her hands shook as she spoke. The swap wasn't random. I planned it. The room went still. She swallowed. Ryan and we'd been talking for a month. Texting. Flirting. Complaining about you. I wanted him, but I couldn't steal him outright, because then I'd be the villain. So I invented the swap. The contract. The fair idea. My vision blurred, not from tears, but from that cold, clean shock of realizing something you feared was true. So it was a setup, I said softly. You manipulated me into handing him to you so you wouldn't look guilty. Madison cried harder. I'm sorry, Claire. I never thought it would end like this. You never thought there'd be consequences, I corrected, and my voice wasn't loud, it was worse, calm. Daniel's hand found mine. Madison looked at him, then at me, and I saw the terrible truth settle in her. She wasn't losing him because of money, or because of bad luck, or because life was unfair. She was losing because she used people like props until the props grew spines. I didn't feel joy watching her crumble. I felt emptiness. Because the sister I wanted, the one who could love without competing, had never existed. There had only ever been Madison, and Madison's hunger. I squeezed Daniel's hand and stood. My mom called my name, confused, pleading, still stuck in the old family choreography where I was supposed to stay and fix things. But there was nothing left to fix. At the door, Daniel leaned close and whispered, "You okay?" I took one breath, then another. For the first time, I said, and my voice trembled with something that felt like grief and freedom braided together, "I think I am." And we walked out, not triumphant, not cruel, just quietly choosing a life where love didn't require me to disappear.